So if this is the first time you're opening up Inspector, you'll need to open up the Inspector Quick Start, and you'll need the account name and password to launch Inspector, because um, we have it set to reset your password when you open. When you sign in, it'll ask you to change your password. And once you do that, it'll log you in. And next step is you'll need an activation code, and that's what's going to get emailed to you. And this license code is registered to Beeswax. The best way to use it is actually to have it hosted on a server, and to then use the add-on that comes with Inspector to add the functionality, so that when you're working with your files, the XML is generated directly on a server and then is sent a message to Inspector to process it. And that's what we'll cover next. Okay, so you're looking at a copy of InspectorPro that's hosted on one of our Beeswax servers. And the very first thing you'll want to do to start analyzing your solutions is you want to create a solution. So let's step through creating a solution here. You'll enter the name of the solution. And in this case, I'm going to use the meetings file. And so when you create it, you'll get a solution ID, and that's this number on the left here. And we'll look at that number. That's going to be an important number to remember when you work with the add-on. So Inspector 8 actually has a number of different ways that you can send the XML to Inspector, especially when it's hosted on server or locally. And those ways are either directly from clicking this arrow button here. There's a manually upload option. There's by window names, and then there's the integration, the API integration that comes with the add-on that comes with Inspector. So let's look at these first two options. And so first off, I'm going to create a new file, meetings. I'm going to just save it here. And now I have a meetings file, and I have InspectorPro. So one thing I could do, this meetings file is local. So I could go to the tools menu. And by the way, if you don't have the tools menu, you can go to settings, and you check this checkbox here, use advanced tools, and then restart FileMaker, and you'll have this menu as well over here. So in the tools menu, in this version of Inspector 8, we have switched from using the DDR to using save a copy as XML. So you'll choose that option, and I'll put a folder in here called XML. And it's saved. If the file is local, it saves it out very quickly. If it's on the server, it's also very quick. However, if you've got a hosted file, you definitely do not want to generate the XML from your computer over the network, because that part is very slow. So now that you have the XML generated, you could go to here and you could say, I want to manually upload it, and you can put a comment. For the first analysis, we usually call it a baseline. You can set any one of these methods as the default method. So this is the baseline. I run it, and it's going to ask me for that location of that XML. It could be the location of that XML or multiple XML files that are all part of that make up your solution. And so I select it. It sends it to the server. It processes it, and it's done. All right, so that's one method. The other method, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear this. I'm going to reset it. Okay, so now all the data is going to be gone. So now I don't have any data. I'm going to do the same thing, except this time I'm going to use the option to say window names. And all you need to do here is type in the names of the windows for which you want to generate save as XML for. And you must have all these files open with full access for this to work. So I'll type in meetings. Again, I'll put in a comment, run, and what it'll do is it'll generate the XML and send it to the server and process it. So those two methods are great if your file is local. If your file is hosted, let me get rid of this data again here to reset it. If your file is hosted, you'll want to use the add-on. So I'm going to pretend this file is hosted. It's not hosted right now, but I'm going to go ahead and add the add-on. So here, this one. And let's see here. I'm going to just make this a little bit taller. I'm going to drag it onto the layout. And by adding the add-on, it added a table occurrence. It added some scripts, some scripts for the add-on or over here. And so these scripts work in conjunction with this add-on, and then it added a layout. So if you click the button, now this is where that number is important to enter. So this is 565 here. I'll enter 565. Again, you can put in a comment here if you wish. The settings. So this is hosted on one of our beeswax servers. So you'd enter the host name of the server it's hosted on, and then this is the name of the file that Inspector is named. So you can rename Inspector when you host it, and that's the name that you'll enter over here. And then this is the InspectorPro INSP-O. That's the OData account password. And so what you'll need to do because by default it's set up to work, but it already has a password on it. And so for you to have more peace of mind, you can actually reset this password. And there's instructions in the document. Basically, you would open up Inspector with the INSP-O account name, and the password is provided in the README. And then once you log in, you would go to the file menu and say change password. And then you would enter the old password and enter a new password. And the new password and confirmed password should match the password in your add-on here. And so once that's done and the file is hosted, then what you can do, there's a few options you can do. Again, this file was local. I didn't host it. So let me go ahead and open up a file that is hosted, and we'll take a look shortly at firing off some analyses from both Inspector and the other file. We're going to talk about the other third integration option, which is with the add-on. I have now hosted this inventory file on our server, and the add-on is already part of it. If I click on Process, and you'll see over here, I've created a solution for it. The solution ID is 554. The solution ID in the add-on is 554. These have to match so that when you generate the XML, it knows which one of these solutions in Inspector does that XML belong to. And so, so now I can, it's all set up and ready. All I need to do is just put in a name, description, and hit return, and it'll run on server. So it's running on server. It's importing. It's completed, basically. So what it just did was it ran a PSOS script that generated the XML. It called InspectorPro to tell where that XML was. It processed it, and so that's a very small file, but that only took like 3 seconds, and that's it. Now there's a couple of things to note here, and that is if I make a change, let's say I add a button to this layout, and this button has this let's say this gear icon. Make it a little bit smaller. Make the button a bit bigger. Okay. And put this button over here. And now I want to document that change, let's say. I could either click the process button again and type in, added button to the layout, etc., and document and run it, or hit return, it'll run it. And so now that'll get picked up. And then you'll see here two items added, 3 items modified. So that's one way. The other way, really quickly, is if I make a change here and I remove the button, instead of having to type a message and all that, what I could simply do is hold the Option key down, and it'll run it without prompting me for a message. And that picked up 1 modification and 1 deletion. And we'll talk about those details shortly. However, there's yet another way, and that is if you go to the arrow button, you can have this integration method, which means that this copy of Inspector will call the script that was installed from the add-on via FMP URL. So it runs it from InspectorPro to the inventory file, telling it to run the script to generate the XML, which then runs on server. So in a way, I can trigger that same process right from here. So for example, let me do the same thing again. Let me just undo that. So the button comes back, and now I can go to here and I click this, and I'll set this as my default. From now on, this will be the default, and I'll say added a button. Next, we'll talk about adding users to Inspector so that multiple users can either be part of your solution and review it and work with that solution as a team, or you can enable users to create their own solutions and then invite other members to be part of that. The main area you'll do that is on the users section, and so you'll add a new user. You'll put in their name, their email, their account name. If you use Slack, you can put in their Slack member ID. We don't have this feature enabled just yet, where we send notifications to a particular Slack member, but that's something we're working on in the future. And then there's 2 options. There's a user and there's an admin. So the admin is able to do everything. They're able to see all the solutions. They're able to add, delete, reset solutions, etc. So basically they can do everything. If you create a user, you'll have the additional option for a user to allow that user to create and manage their own solutions, which means that they can create a solution, they can edit that solution, reset that solution, and even delete that solution. However, if you just add a user without this option, what that will do is they'll add the users to the list of people here. And then when you add that person to your solution, they are able to see that solution and participate in that solution, but they're not able to delete that solution or reset that solution. And they would only be able to see the solutions that they're members of. So in this case, this inventory file, if I click on the 0 members, because there's 0 members right now, I can select one of the users in this list, which is, okay, so I'll select, let's say Brendan, and I'll define Brendan as a developer. I'll add Brendan, and then I'll select myself, and I'll make myself the architect, and I'll add Mercuria, and I'll make him the UX designer. So now we have these 3 people that are able to participate on this solution here. And yeah, so then that's how you add users to Inspector, and that's how you associate users to a solution. All right, so next we'll look at navigation. And there's navigation. There's two icons here. One is the settings for the editing of the solution, etc. But there's another icon here. This brings up this will bring up the dashboard for this solution, which is called inventory. And on this main dashboard, you'll see total number of items on the far right, and then the percentage of unreferenced code that's in each of these areas. So like, for example, this example here, there's 211 styles and all of them are unreferenced. Or there's one script that's unreferenced out of 7 scripts. So that's that. If I go and drill into the scripts area, I can also navigate back to the dashboard over here, or navigate back to the script area that way, or I can navigate using some of these pop-up icons at the top in the navigation bar. So I could go look at all the fields. If I wanted to, I could also go navigate back to scripts. This time I can go look at all 7 scripts, or I could go look at only the one script that's marked as unreferenced. So that's a script that's in the that was added as the integration script. It's marked as unreferenced. I can show all those records in the scripts, and yeah, so that's basically navigation. I can also go back to where I was and navigate back and forward, or use the navigation that is available at the top here. There's, in some cases, there are sub popovers like this that you can navigate with, or you can just, some cases there isn't a popover necessarily, and it'll take you directly to the item. So yeah, so lots to explore in navigation, but it's pretty straightforward and simple. So next, we'll take a look at different options to search. And the first one is going to be using a global search, which is possible up here, which we had in Inspector 7. And so you can have it focus on searching across schema, across calculations. So these are enabled, and you can search across history. History is interesting because you can search even for deleted items when you search for history. We'll cover that in a little bit later, but basically, let's say you searched for, and this is an inspector, let's say reset, the word reset, and hit return. And these are all the places where it finds the word reset. Could be like, for example, here's a field name. It could be in a comment, field comment, or in other places. But this did a search in those areas, and you can expand it out if you finds the first 10 items, and then expand it out to show all the items. So so that's a global search for that's possible either in calculations. So you can search for a variable across all calculations, a single word. And again, we'll cover the history global search in a little bit. But what I'd like to talk about right now is Logicator Search, which is a product that Mark Scott built. And it's an excellent add-on that you can add into your solutions, and it's available on the Beeswax website. But basically it takes very little time to integrate, and it gives you a familiar interface. So for example, it'll install this card window, and it'll scrape your layout to tell you what fields I can search on this layout, and some different options that you can search by. So for example, I'm looking for an account that starts with LUC. That found Luciano. I can show all again. And if I hold the control key down and I hit find again, it remembers my last search. So so then I can search for that, or add some other criteria to search on. If I click on it again, that starts a new search. What's nice about this version is as soon as you bring it up, you can just type what your search criteria is, hit return, and you're looking at results. So we made a little bit ease of use enhancements there, which are helpful. Next, let's look at what is possible with AI. We're stepping into a new world here, and we added some AI capabilities to Inspector in this release. The first capability is we added a way to basically summarize scripts. So, for example, you'll select a script, and if you've asked it to, if you entered the information as part of your solution to associate what language model what language provider you're using, or what model you're using, and your API key, it's set up to work with a Chat GPT. But in the future, we'll have it more open ended, so that you can use any provider. Right now, so what it's done is it's generated summaries of the scripts. So, like for example, there's a short summary, a little bit longer summary, and so for example, this script is designed to fully reset a database to a demo state. It includes steps such as renaming files, deleting scratch layouts, changing the ID field, removing unwanted accounts, et cetera, et cetera. So if I copy, actually, if I go look at the script itself, you'll see the information in here as to what it's doing, and so basically it's summarizing that information as part of its analysis. And what we're using the summary for is we're using the summary for yet another AI capability, and that is we're able to search semantically on data. So, for example, let's say I wanted to find all scripts that reset data. I could enter that criteria and set a number of total records that I want to find, and it finds all the scripts based on meaning and based on the embeddings of the summary. So what it's doing really is it's generating an embedding based on this summary, and then when you're searching using the search, it matches the meaning that you have typed in here versus the meaning that's in the summary, and tries to find a match that is of the highest possible ranking. And you can specify a total number of records, and it'll try and get as close to this number as possible. Yeah, so we're looking to add more capabilities in the future for AI, but this is a start. So with AI, a couple of interesting use cases are: one, you've inherited a solution that you haven't worked on, and it has 500 some odd scripts, and all the scripts are very long, and you don't understand it. AI can lend a helping hand by generating a summary of the script, and thus instead of reading, you know, 122 lines of scripts, what you could do is just read the short summary or the longer summary, and so gives you a heads up as to what the script is doing, rather than to have to pore over the actual code itself. What I found interesting is when you add sections or comments above a set of a code, a block of script steps, etc. What I find interesting is it uses sometimes those comments as bullets or points to make that, like this next section does this, or etc. So it's very interesting how it's able to summarize the script. And then another use case might be you haven't looked at your solution in a year or two, and it's a good way to get refamiliarized with the logic in your scripts. But the important point is that the semantic search capability that this enables is the ability to search with meaning, instead of with precision. So I'm not looking for a specific field name or something like that. And especially for scripts, your scripts have a kind of defined intent, let's say, by what the summary provides. And what AI enables is the ability to search what what that meaning is that the script is doing. So this enables a whole new paradigm that we've never really had before, and this is just the beginning. So when you're looking at the inspector dashboard, you'll see these gray bars here. So for example, in the inventory solution, there's a number of layouts that got added. These three layouts here that actually are not referenced anywhere. So if we can actually go back to the dashboard, and you'll see them here, these three layouts. If I click on them, these three layouts have no references of them. So Brendan, who's my colleague, he's actually logged in and he's going to make changes. And he's also looking at Inspector and seeing that those three layouts are not referenced anywhere. So he's going to go ahead and delete those three layouts and then run Inspector. And we'll see this update almost real time here. Once he's run it, this number is going to change, and we'll see that number got changed just now. So now those three layouts got removed. In a sense, this is helping you to refactor your code and trim it down to only what you need. And if we look here, there's a lot of items that got deleted. That's because there was a lot of objects on each of those layouts that also got deleted. I'm going to hand it over to Brendan, and he's going to show you some other things that he's made changes to.
Here's an example of some changes that InspectorPro will track. So let's say I'm on this layout and, for example, I don't like the position of this inventory button. I might move this down a little bit. I might create a new field on the layout. So let me, copy paste. Let's say this is going to be last order. And then let's say I take a look at a script and I decide, I want to change this script. So I'm going to go into this calculation. I might adjust my calculation in some way. Let's say I want current host timestamp instead of current timestamp. And let's say that's good. Okay, save that change. Go back to my layout, save my change here. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now I'm just gonna hold the Option key, click the process button. So we'll see here, it went pretty quickly. I can take a look at the history of changes. So you can see there's quite a few things that changed here. So one of the cool things you can do is take a look at the calculation changes. So for example, this is right here. I can choose to show the diff in the calculation so I can see exactly what changed, which is pretty cool. I can also take a look at some other details about the layouts that changed. So, here's some metadata about the objects in the layout. Here's some changes to actual layout objects. So we can see this one move position. As a result of adjusting a layout object in a layout part, we'll see that kind of the parts had changes. In this case, the metadata is just saying that the last person to edit the part was me. So InspectorPro kind of tracks all of these metadata changes. Yeah, and this is a general change to the script where I edited the script step. So yeah, so InspectorPro will keep track of all of that information.
All right, so I downloaded a copy of Starting Point from Richard Carlton's website, and just to play around with it, test it out. And here's Here's the dashboard. Again, with references and dependencies, Inspector will track both of these, but the more critical one is references where this item is being used. And so you want to be careful not to delete something where it's being used. And FileMaker has gotten better over the years. If you try to delete, let's say, a field that's used in a calculation in the same file, it won't let you do that. It'll tell you that it can't delete it. So it'll give you some warnings, but in some cases it doesn't give you warnings. So you can just delete a custom function, and even though it's used in a lot of places, it won't warn you that it's being used. You just delete it without understanding. So it's a good idea to check with a tool like Inspector. And so, for example, there's 894 scripts in this file, and there's 27 references of this script here. So if I click on the reference button, this one here tells me all the places where that script is referenced. And this, in this case, is script triggers, and these are script steps that call that script, etc. So if this were 0, I could potentially delete that script. However, there could be perform script by name. So you'd have to search your script steps and see if you're using any references of indirection, any types of indirection, just to get reassurance that you're not using indirection in this solution, so you can rest assured that it's not being used. A good idea is Inspector will get you like 99% of the way there, but the other 1% is really just understanding the solution and understanding how it's used to make sure that you don't accidentally delete something that is in use.
I'm going to show a couple of the features which we had in Inspector 7, which has been kind of more developed now in Inspector 8, and that is tags and notes. So here's where you manage the global list of tags, and these tags apply to every item in your solution. You can choose a tag style here. I'm going to go with traffic signal muted. I'm going to call this tag to deprecate. And I'm going to give it the color of stop, and then add that. So now this tag is available to me everywhere. And I can just add another tag just to show you an example. Let's add that. Okay, once I'm happy with my tags here, close out of that. And then on any item in my list, if I click on this here, I can tag it. So let me tag this one to deprecate. Now I don't see the tag because I have to toggle the tag view here. And that will let me see the tags that I attach to items in my system. So let's say this one I marked as to deprecate. These two down here, I'm going to mark both of these as green, another tag, and this one down here as well. Okay. And let's say I'm happy with that. But then I also want to take a look at my scripts here. And I've got this new script here. I also want to deprecate that. So let's just mark that as deprecated as well. Again, the toggle is on all of the layouts, so you have to do that up here. The other cool thing about this is that I can go to the dashboard in my global search, and actually I can actually search on that tag. So I can say to deprecate, hit the enter key, the return key, and I'll see, like I've got one field here and one script here which I've chosen to deprecate. Same thing with another tag. If I hit return there, I'll find the two items that I tagged with the another tag. So yeah, and again, this still functions as a, it will accept native FileMaker searches, so you can do, whatever you would do normally in FileMaker. So yeah, it's it's still a native search, but it's also including a search across your tags. So those will also show up here. Yeah, and that's tags.
We have Slack integration also in this version as we did in the previous version. Right now, it's only sending a message when an analysis completes. The way you set that up is go to the main section for editing a solution, and you'll enter your webhook here, and you'll notify on analysis completion. You'll want to turn that on. You can turn it off at any point in time, but what that will do is it'll show a little icon that there's a Slack integration for this solution. And when you make a change to the solution, let's say I delete this layout object, and I'll go back to Inspector. Actually, let me bring up this window here so you can see it. I can run it. I'll hold the Option key down. I'll run it. It kicks it off. It's running, and there it is. Analysis 13 for inventory just completed, 2.2 seconds, and the Slack notification that shows up for it.
First, I'll explain how to get set up and kind of all the pieces required to be able to start sending action notifications. So the first thing that happens is when you create a new solution, give your solution a name, and then here you want to enter your Slack webhook. This is something where you go to Slack's developer tools, create a new app, enable the webhooks feature, and then copy the link from there and paste it here. Basically, you give access to a Slack app to be able to post to Slack, and then we're sending our notifications to that Slack app. So that is how that works. The other thing that's required is this generate history. So in order to send action notifications, we require you to have a history of changes for the file. This flag is what will let you do it. It's enabled by default. The next thing that's required is under the members window here. If you click on this number here, you have the ability to add different members to your solution. Before you can add members, you need to add the user to InspectorPro itself using this menu here. Once you add the user, in the user page, here is where you can add their Slack user ID, or member ID, it's called. You can find the Slack member ID in Slack by right-clicking a username, viewing their profile, and then you'll be able to find it there. There's an option to copy member ID. You paste the member ID here under that user, and then once you go into the members of a solution, you can add that user here. That will give you access to notifications. So this is a global setting where you can disable or enable notifications for that individual person globally for the solution. Once all those pieces are kind of in place, then you have access to the action notifications. So now we'll go into how do you actually set up one of these action notifications. So the first place you can do it is here with this bell icon. Right now, we don't have any notifications set up, kind of a clean slate. So I'll go ahead and add the first notification, is where you can kind of choose what you want to be notified by. So this first one here in this menu is immutable. We'll get into the reason why a little bit later. But for now, what I want to do is say when any, for example, field is created, and here you can choose a specific file if you want, but for now I'm going to say any file. So when any field is created in any file, I want to be notified by that. So once you have the action notification here, on this panel, you'll have the list of members associated with that solution. And so for myself, I'm going to enable just myself for now, but you can enable multiple people for Slack to be able to be notified by when this action takes place. What triggers this action? Well, it's just your regular InspectorPro analysis processing. So here I've got an example file, we sell art, that's associated with this solution. I've used the add-on to drop the inspector integration here. So when you click this, it'll actually just, this is kind of like the convenient way of processing your solutions XML. So In the settings menu, I've set this up to connect with our InspectorPro file on our server. I've entered the solution ID here, which it matches the solution ID on our server. With those two sort of things set up, I can start processing analyses via the integration. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new field. So let's say table ABCX, new field A. Let's add two new fields here, BBB. Let's go to a different table. Let's add a new field here, CCC. So that's three new fields. I'm going to go ahead and go to this test table again, or let's say table Z. I'm going to delete a couple fields just to show that these deletions don't get picked up by the action notifications. So I'm deleting copy 27, 28. And that's good. And let me modify this too. Okay. So that's three creations, an edit, and a deletion. So now let's go ahead and process this analysis. Added new fields to test. So we'll fire that off to the server. It begins processing. Once it's done, we can see here what happened. So I got this notification in Slack about action notifications. This is sort of a summary of all the changes that happened. This is my comment that I added. And this, starting from here, are sort of the sections that will get output. So first we have fields that were created in Weasel Art. And you can see here I've got my three fields that I newly created. And my watcher, again, done via the Slack user or Slack member ID. So this is a really convenient way of monitoring your solution. So if you're interested in whenever someone adds a new field, someone edits a script, someone deletes something you really didn't want to get deleted, you can set up a notification here to be notified when that happens.
We also added the ability to monitor a file. So for example, if you have this on a production system and maybe the client or someone has full access to the production system, you can set up a schedule to run inspector once a day. And you can say if anything changes in the file, on any file, send me a Slack notification. Therefore, if anybody adds a script, makes a layout modification, adds a value list or whatever, you'll get notified that the production file has been changed.
So let's move on to specific notifications. So if I open up the WeSellArt Git dashboard, let's do scripts as an example now. So here I can see all my scripts. In all of our area menus or area layouts, we have this bell icon available. If you click it, what that does is open up kind of a separate new action notification window, but this is watching for specific items in your solution. So you have two options here, selected record, found set. So let's do selected record for now. So it's going to be this script, show list of artists new. So let's create that notification. Let's also try a different area. So let's go to maybe schema fields. Or actually, let's do a find. So, okay. Let's say any field contains date. Okay, so I've got a bunch of date fields here. Let's create an action notification for these records. Found set. I'm just going to give it a label. Date fields. My date fields. And just set it up for myself and create that. Okay, so that will run through the records and create an action notification for all of them. If I go back to my action notifications menu here, you'll see that
before, when I showed action notifications, this type any was kind of immutable. But for the reason for that is because when you're looking for specific items, you can either look for notifications for a group of items or for a single item. So that any changes to this or group. Yeah, and if you want to know what date fields those are, so let me navigate away from here for a second. Okay, you can click this navigation icon here, and that should take you to all the date fields here, so you can see which items they are. So yeah, so now that I've got that set up, let me show it in action. So if I go to my scripts and I change show list of artists new, let's say I add a comment here, and let me change these other two scripts as well. Add a new line there, delete a couple new lines there. Okay, that's my script changes. And then I'm also looking for date field changes. So here in artwork, I've got a bunch of date fields. Let me change the name of this field. New comment. Let's go into the options menu and let's remove, or let's set up full indexing on this one. Yeah, so those are several changes I made. So now let me process. Okay, cool. And then you'll see here. So that single script that I'm watching gets output, not the other scripts that I edited. And these date fields, which are part of that group of items I'm watching, also get output here because I changed some sort of metadata about these fields.
Okay, so let's look at how we can create a personal access token for use with InspectorPro and GitHub. So the first thing you do is log in to GitHub, so you'll need an account. Then you can click on your profile avatar and go down to settings. And then we want to find the developer settings, personal access tokens, and the type we need is classic. So we go to tokens classic. And then we need to generate a new token and make sure it's classic. Again, they try and trip you up one more time. And the note, this can be anything, obviously InspectorPro demo, I'll call this one. I would look out for the expiration. Obviously, if you want to manage your tokens, you can set any expiration, but InspectorPro can't really warn you if a token's going to expire, so you may want to explore no expiration, but you get this warning here, so just heed the warning. Scopes are very important, but quite simple. So the scopes you need are repo, delete repo for resetting and deleting solutions in Inspector, and then the user scope as well. And then we'll generate the token. So this token you only get to see once. So make sure you copy it and paste it into a password manager or something like that. Okay, so back in Inspector, let's create a solution. And I'll give it a name. And then I have to remember the file name. It's this. Okay. And the key thing is we want to enable the Git integration. And this is where we set up the integration. Metadata is just adding extra information to our Git output. We'll turn that on for now. And now we need to set up the repo, which is going to get created for us. So the owner will either be your own account name if you're doing this on a personal account, or in our case, an organization, beeswax. We'll give it a name. So this is the repo name. These are usually no spaces and only dash or numbers, as long as it doesn't start with a number as the special characters. So nice and simple there. And then this is where we put in personal access token. And that is usually all you need. In some situations, if you have your own GitHub enterprise instance, you may have a different URL here, different host, and sometimes you might want a different branch, but usually main is fine. So at this point, we'll create the Git repo and the inspector solution. Go through, and it does that. The next thing we want to do here is just configure the members of the solution, because these are important for attribution. So let's see who we have. It's put me in automatically. I'm going to just cement my Git token. Obviously mine is the solution token, but it's useful to have your own here too. And then the second thing that's important is to add all the accounts within the solution that we're going to be analyzing here. So you may have more than one. And the classic one is when you create a new FileMaker solution, there's always an admin user. So I will take on all changes or original settings by the admin user, and I will also enter my username in that, my account name in that solution, which is AlecG. So these two will then be attributed to me. I'm also going to add my colleague Vince as a new user. You'll see Vince here, can be a developer. His token, I have, he can have that one, and I know his solution account is the, no. So that should attribute changes to him. Okay, so let's pause at this point, and then let's look at this solution, make sure it's been created in Git. Great, so then we go to the newly created repo. It's there. This is how it will look, just initial commit and a blank README. So yeah, that is working well. And here we're going to run our initial analysis, and then we can run that initial analysis. See, it goes through the regular analysis, keep posting to Git. That's what it's doing now. Now we've done 720 items. Later changes will do far fewer. Okay, let's see if that went to Git. See, we've got one analysis here. We have our blank repo. Let's refresh the page. And we'll see we have per file. So this is a file name. Multiple file solutions will have two folders. You'll see that's the baseline analysis. And we have all our items in there. So that's looking good. So now let's make a change in our solution. And we should be able to see just that change. So if we now go to, say, change a custom function, let's do a new one called okay. And now we can run our analysis from here again. I'll do the quick version, option click, and we should see it running again, posting to Git again. That time, obviously, the analysis was much shorter and the Git was much shorter. So let's see again now. We've got more, and you'll see analysis 2 was the last commit rather than baseline. And now we can start. We're in a position to actually view some of those changes. I'll just do a quick view in the Git UI first. We have other videos with more detailed stuff, but you'll see that the first analysis was the baseline. It had various commits in it. The next one is just my commit where I added custom function there, so you can see that it's working, and each change also gets committed to Git.
So you're going to talk about styles and what's possible with Inspector. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and put this field on this layout, and that is going to be a default style. I'm going to option copy that field. I'm going to be a different field, and this field I will modify it. I will save it as a style, call it orange, and save it into the theme. So now that's a theme style. If I copy another field out and make a change to this style, this one green, I'll save it as a new style called green, but I won't save it into the theme. So you can see different options there. And then I will do another field, and I will just make changes to this field. And so now I have a default style, a theme style, what is sometimes referred to as a layout style, and then a local style. Okay, so there's 4 different styles here. And so we're going to save this. I'm going to run Inspector, and I'm going to go look at the layout, that layout number 4. So layout number 4, and I'm going to look at styles. And you'll see you have like 4 objects, 1 default, 1 theme, 1 layout, 1 local. If I go into that layout, and let me just make this part smaller. Okay, so I'm going to make these all theme styles. So basically I'm going to make this one, I'm going to turn this one to orange, and this one also to orange. So these are all going to be theme styled, and that's 1 default style, but let's make that all orange. So they're all orange. I'm going to save the changes to my theme. You don't have to save the changes to your theme, but I just did. So now I am going to keep these windows open so you can see them. And I'm going to run it. Sorry. Let's call it layout style changes. Run. Okay, so you're going to see over here, these numbers disappeared, right? So I have 4 theme styles, 0 default styles, 0 layout styles, 0 local styles. So this is a great way to look at your solutions and see what styling information is applied to objects. And another cool thing is that you can actually refactor them and save some processing time when these layouts load. All right, next we're going to cover problems, and in Inspector 8, they show up as warning triangles, and there's a couple ways to get to them. So one is, again, from the dashboard. If you see a list of problems and you navigate to an area, like I have fields in this meetings file, I have 88 fields, and I could click on the 88 and see all my fields, and at some point you'll see the warning icon show up on the fields. I can click on the warning triangle and it'll tell me the details of what that problem is. Another way that you can navigate to there is, again, either from the dashboard or from this popover. I can just click on the warning triangle and it narrows in right onto the fields with problems. And so, for example, this one here has a validation for a value list that's missing. I wish we could click here and be taken to the actual field, but we can't at this time. So, so here's the field. Here's the validation. Here's the value list that's missing. So the value list was deleted. Someone maybe didn't check it with Inspector before they got rid of the value list to see if it was referenced, and thus created a problem. So, so that's one way to quickly navigate around and see what the problem is, and then go fix it, basically. But we did a lot of work to to surface the kinds of problems in a better, easier to understand UI. So there's a lot of details there when you click on the warning triangle. Another thing about problems that they surface right away on the not only on the dashboard screen that we saw here. So you have the illustrating where the problems are, etc. Right. So in this case, this value list has primary field is missing, primary table occurrence is missing, etc., etc. But right from the main InspectorPro dashboard, you'll see a total number of problems and an emoji associated with the stress level of the number of problems that you have. So you'll see right off on the main screen if you have a number of problems in the solution. In conjunction with moving from DDR to XML, we have a workflow that's very different. So in versions before 8, version 7, 6, 5, etc., what we used to have is the FileMaker server and with Inspector hosted on it, and you're opening your solution and you want to generate the DDR. So you would request the DDR for any open files. It would generate the DDR, would save it locally, and then using the inspector, you would upload the DDR back to the server to get it processed. Very inefficient. Asking for it, getting it generated locally, and then once it's all generated locally, then uploading it back to the server and having Inspector process it. So download it, upload it, not able to be scripted, not server compatible, very slow. Save as XML, actually, an interesting caveat here, which I want to restate and remind people. Save as XML is actually even worse. If you have a file and it's hosted on a server, do not try and generate the save as XML locally. You're better off to script it and generate the XML on the server, and you'll get a dramatic performance gain. And that's the whole point of using the add-on that comes with inspectors. So version 8, what it does is it uses save as XML, which is different because it can be scripted. And so the other cool benefit is if you write a script schedule, as I mentioned before, you don't even have to have Inspector open. It's just sitting on the server, and the solution is there. The schedule runs every few minutes. It'll generate the XML, send it to Inspector, and process it. If the solution is open and a user decides to they have the integration installed and they want to document some changes they made, they can run it. And what it does is it generates the XML on the server and immediately tells Inspector to process it. So the save as XML is server compatible. The InspectorPro integration is an add-on that you can easily add to any of your files, and a comment can be added along with when you fire it off to document what you've analyzed. So the other cool thing is Inspector doesn't even need to be open locally for all this to work, and it's extremely really fast on the server. So I encourage you to have it hosted and use the add-on, or use a script schedule to trigger the processing. In moving over to save as XML, the XML output is different than what it used to be in the DDR, and because of that, we had to rewrite a lot of the XSLs that Inspector uses to process the XML output. But the cool thing is that they added this higher level structure of catalogs that we never had before in DDR, and that's what makes this processing so much faster, because the catalogs tell us there's changes to look in that section. So for example, this is a base table catalog. It tells us there's modification count, there's a username, an account name, and a timestamp, and there's also a UUID associated with the catalog. But in this case, it tells us like there's 3 modifications to this base table catalog. Now, if we ran this before and we had 2 modifications, next time we run it and we parse the catalog section first, we'll see, oh, it looks like there was a change in this catalog. let's go into the catalog and look at all the items in the catalog, and then we'll see all the base tables themselves, and we'll see which one of the base tables actually had some changes to it. This is the really cool way of being able to zero in and find what's changed. And unfortunately, modification counts are not everywhere, so that's a downside to being able to use that consistently to understand what's changed. But we found ways to work around that, and so that's a big plus. So that gives us the ability to zero in and find the things that have changed. So next we have layout parts that we never had before. So in the XML, we now have the ability to document what the parts are on a layout, and we also get the side benefit of being able to then tell the user that let's say you have a field that's used as a subsummary part, you also have a dependency or a reference to that field from that part. So that layout part depends on that field. So if you delete that field and it's referenced by the layout part, you're gonna introduce some problems. So layout parts are new, and another thing that's new in the save as XML is table occurrence notes. And yes, this is not a typo. They do show up as layout objects for some reason. I don't know why, but anyway, that's just the way it is. That's the way it's output in the XML. And emojis come through just fine anywhere you use them, be it in your scripts, script step comments, table occurrence notes. Anywhere you use them, they come through just fine. So these are some cool new things that they've added in the XML. So things that we've never had before. So we have more thorough oversight over the solution and what's in it.